Hello and welcome back to Storytime with Alex and the reading of Supernatural Night Terror by John Passarella. I thought I'd read one more chapter before calling it a day for today. So here we are on chapter 18. In the last episode, which I don't know why I'm struggling to remember, I literally just read it, Sam and Dean both had some bad dreams and Sam saw his soulless self. This is a bit of a tongue twister. Okay, chapter 18. By the time Dean parked the Impala across from 109 Cheney Lane, a tree service company was reducing the down white oak to disposable pieces. One man cut off smaller branches and fed them into the wood chipper, while a second man turned the trunk into manageable slices with a heavy-duty chainsaw. Between the raucous roar of the chipper and the repetitive whine of the chainsaw, Dean felt a massive headache brewing. Lack of sleep and too much caffeine could be a crappy combination. At least he wasn't hungover, although at the moment he couldn't imagine how a hangover could possibly feel any worse. Sam pressed the doorbell. They waited with their FBI laminates at the ready. Melinda Barnes might assume they were the press, intruding on a family tragedy, and slam the door in their faces. She'd be more inclined to speak to someone trying to figure out what happened. But what they really needed was to speak to her son. Nobody answered. Maybe the doorbell's broken, Dean said. They certainly couldn't hear much over the tree destruction in progress 20 feet behind them. Sam rapped on the door. A few seconds later, a young woman with puffy eyes greeted them, taking a moment to check their IDs. "What do you want?" she said loudly, frowning as the wood chipper shrieked in the background. Dean wondered if the constant reminder of the tree that had killed her husband bothered her, or if she found some solace in witnessing its methodical dismemberment. Either way, Dean decided, he'd defer her question to Sam. "Just a few questions, Mrs. Barnes." "I can't hear," she said, shaking her head. "Come inside." She led them through the house to the kitchen, which was decorated in a country style with pink gingham wallpaper, white cabinets with glass front doors, and a light-coloured hardwood floor. The windows overlooked a backyard with an all-purpose wooden playset in the centre that featured a mini fort and climbing wall, a sliding board and swings. The kid wasn't out there. Melinda Barnes sat down at the kitchen table and motioned them towards chairs. Dean and Sam sat facing her. "You're with the FBI?" "Yes," Sam said. "We're sorry for the loss of your husband. We have a few questions and then we'll get out of your way." "I talked to the police last night," she said, pressing one hand to her quivering chin. "Don't know what else I can say." "We're conducting a parallel investigation," Dean said. "This was a freak accident," she said. "A horrible freak accident. That's all, right? Ma'am, you may be aware of some of the other strange incidents around town in the last few days. A boy killed in a hit and run? 2 now," Dean said. "2?" She shook her head. "I hadn't heard. Just some crazy talk about the hair salon, about a giant alligator." "Gila monster," Dean said. "And a giant tarantula." "What?" Red kneed. "The point is," Sam said, "we believe there may be a connection between all these incidents." "How could there be a connection to what happened to Max?" she asked. "It was a storm and the tree branch came through the window. Max was in the wrong place at the wrong time." "Was he?" "Yes. We talked about trimming the tree because the branches scraped against the house. They scared Daniel, my son. Max said he would cut them in the morning." She clamped a hand over her mouth and squeezed her eyes shut. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and she quickly wiped the tracks away. "I'm sorry," she choked. "No need to apologize, ma'am," Sam said. He was standing by the window because of the branches being so close, checking on them, and the wind just... "Is that what your son saw?" "What? Of course that's what he saw. That's what happened." "Did he tell you what he saw?" Sam pressed softly. He's not talking about it. I told him he didn't have to talk about it," she said, "but I saw. I heard him calling me, and I ran to the room seconds after it happened. The window was broken, and Mac was on the floor, and there was so much blood." She took a deep, shuddering breath. "I'm taking Daniel away from here for a while. I called my sister in Colorado Springs, and we're going—" "I understand how upsetting this is, Mrs. Barnes," Sam said. "It's important we talk to Daniel." She shook her head violently. "No." "He's the only witness." "No," she said again. She looked down at the kitchen table, nibbling on the fingernail of her index finger, slowly shaking her head. No, I don't want him to go through that again. To relive what happened to his father. Can you imagine how horrible that must have been for a 10-year-old boy to see that? To see his father? Sam waited while she composed herself. Then he tried again. Ma'am, whatever caused this, whatever killed your husband, we don't believe it was a freak accident. And we believe these incidents will continue to happen until we figure out what's causing them and stop it. Sam paused for a moment, then continued, his voice gentle but firm. As a wife and as a mother, you wouldn't want something like this to happen to another family, to another little girl and boy. She continued to shake her head. Oh, of course not, she said. Finally, she looked up at Sam, met his gaze, and her eyes were wet with more unshed tears. But as a mother, I can't put my son through this. It's okay, Mum, a small voice said from the kitchen doorway. Daniel, she said, wiping her cheeks hastily again. She rushed from the table and placed her hands on his shoulders. You're supposed to be sleeping in the guest room. What are you doing down here? Couldn't sleep with all the noise outside, he said, and I heard you talking to these men. They were just leaving, she said, and glanced over her shoulder. Weren't you? Sam glanced at Dean, who nodded, and they stood. You said you can stop this from happening again, Daniel Barnes said, looking around his mother's protective stance at the Winchesters. Is that true? Standing there, the kid reminded Dean of Ben. Yes, Dean said, that's true. Then I want to help. Daniel, you don't need to, his mother began. I want to, Daniel insisted, for Dad. Melinda Barnes sobbed and clamped her hands over her mouth again. Dad would want me to be brave. Yes, she said. Yes, he would. Then I'll do it. The boy took his mother's place at the kitchen table, and the Winchesters sat again. Melinda Barnes poured glasses of water for all of them. Dean sensed that she wanted to keep her hands busy, or she would simply wrap Daniel in her arms and not let go until they left. With a quick look at Sam, who nodded his understanding, Dean took over the questioning. Tell us what happened, Daniel, he said. The boy looked, took a sip of his water and held the glass tightly in both hands. The tree branches scared me, he said. They looked like arms with long pointy fingers. I could see creepy shadows on the walls and ceilings of my room. The branches kept tapping the window when I was trying to sleep. I was afraid they wanted to grab me, but I kept telling myself wind and shadows, and it was nothing to be afraid of, and I fell asleep. He took another sip of water. Then I had a nightmare about a tree. A nightmare, Dean said. Must have been spooky. Daniel nodded. The tree was evil in my nightmare. It wanted to kill me, and its branches were like arms and fingers. They tried to grab me, reaching through my window. In your dream, Sam said. Yes, Daniel said. And that was when the window cracked. The dream window? Dean asked. No, the real window, Daniel said. It cracked in real life, woke me up. He took a deep breath. It was like my nightmare had become real. Sam exchanged a meaningful look with Dean, but didn't interrupt the flow of the boy's account. Go on. I freaked out, Daniel said. I called out for Mum, but Dad came instead. He was kind of mad, but I told him about the window, and that's when we found out the lights wouldn't work. You lost power? Sam asked Melinda Barnes. Briefly, she said. My dad was standing by the window, Daniel said. He asked me to try my lamp, but that wouldn't work either. And that's when it happened. The wind was blowing hard, and the branch came all the way through the window. Daniel, Melinda Barnes came around the island towards her son. I'm okay, Daniel said, and took another sip of water. The branch went through Dad, all the way from his back, out through here. Daniel tapped his chest. It was like it wanted to stab him, like a sword fight with knights. Sam nodded grimly. Poor kid's only freaking 10 years old, Dean thought. But then the tree acted like it did in my nightmare. What do you mean? Dean said, leaning forward. It moved, the whole tree. Daniel spread his arms to the side and raised them together, lifted itself up, and it lifted Dad up off the floor. Oh my God, Melinda whispered harshly. Daniel, Dad was still alive, Daniel continued. Now the boy's voice became strained with emotion. Dean could tell the kid was holding back tears, bravely trying not to cry for his old man. And the tree made him dance in front of me. Jesus, Dean whispered. Melinda Barnes finally ran forward, dropping to her knees and wrapping her son in her arms, pressing her face against his chest and neck. Oh, God, she murmured. The branch swung him back and forth, Daniel continued, even though tears ran freely down his cheeks now, like he was a puppet. Oh, honey, stop, Melinda whispered. Please stop. Oh, God. I think it wanted to scare me before it left, Daniel said, holding his palm against the back of his mother's head in an effort to comfort her. And then the tree scraped him off the branch, and Dad's blood smeared on the window. He fell to the floor. I knew he was sniffling. He wiped his nose on his sleeve. It was like my nightmare, he said. The tree was evil. Bum, bum, bum. And there you go. That is the end of that chapter. Let's see how their investigations continue next time. Who knows? See you then.